Hey guys, I'm Kyle. I'm here with Scott Griffin of Griffin Automotive Design, and today we want to talk to you a little bit about what to look for when purchasing a project car. This is a thing that a lot of guys bring cars in here that maybe they aren't worth restoring, maybe they are worth restoring, but they're going to cost more than what they expected to restore them. So I want to talk a little bit with Scott today about his thoughts on picking out a good project car and a good starting point.
Yeah, it's a really good topic. A lot of people don't know what they're getting into when they think they want to get one of these old cars and restore one, but they don't really know all the things to look for.
That's a big thing. I think you can get in over your head very, very quickly.
It happens all too often. We've seen it for sure.
So what would you say number one thing that you look for when looking at a project car?
The biggest thing is that you want to look at the overall structural integrity of the car. So look for rust. That's the biggest thing. Looking at classic cars, these old cars, especially if you're up in northern states or the Midwest, you got to look for rust. A strong structural integrity. You look at the frame, look at the floor pans. The pinch welds, you want to look around the areas, around the windows. A lot of times rust hides around there. But rust is your biggest cost. When you get into rust repair, sometimes that determines whether or not a vehicle is even repairable or worth repairing. Sometimes the cost just exceeds. So the structural integrity, the overall structure of the car is probably the most important thing I look for.
Okay. I know another thing working here that I've learned, another thing you want to look for is you want to, when picking a project car, you want to look at your availability of parts.
Absolutely.
You're going to have certain cars, like a lot of your GM products and stuff like that, are going to have a much heavier aftermarket, so you are going to be able to find those hard to find parts much easier. You're going to find them on eBay. You're going to find aftermarket support is a huge thing. You're going to be able to find body panels for those rust issues that you may have.
Right.
And I think that's something a lot of people don't consider when purchasing a car.
And right now, I know it is popular to go with those rare cars. It's something. We've done a lot of the Camaros, the Chevelles, the Mustangs. Those common cars. Still cool. Still love them. But I think rare has gotten cool. But when you get into rare, you also realize that there's not those aftermarket parts available. So, although it may be cool, you got to watch when you're looking for those parts.
So the other thing to go along with kind of the overall condition that you talked about would be mechanical condition.
Absolutely.
So you're going to want to look at your engine, your transmission. What are some things people might not think of mechanically that you want to check out?
Well, so a lot of it is going to determine, so are you wanting, is your plan to restore that mechanical? How long's it been since it ran? So if you are wanting to restore that original engine, well, how long has it been since it ran? Is it dry? Did it have oil in it? Has it had moisture in it? Sometimes just will the motor turn over? Hey, with today, a lot of guys, they're doing engine swaps and they're modernizing things, so maybe that's not going to be a concern. But maybe you're still want to look at what's the suspension like? Is all that? Is it, once again, rust? Is there the strength there to put that more powerful engine and stuff in there? So mechanical things, even if you're doing a swap, you still got to look at what's the integrity of what you're putting it into.
That's a good point. And I know a lot of guys are going to the LS stuff and they're just going directly into engine swaps. And I think that's something people need to consider going into a project. You may want to actually have that kind of in mind looking at your project. Are you wanting to put a new, more reliable engine in it? Because if so, that's something you don't really have to worry about as far as what you're getting, and you may be able to save a couple of dollars with the initial purchase of the project.
Yeah. Or you may find a roller or something where maybe the engine's gone or something like that. So all depends on what you're looking for.
So in talking about specifically like doing the engine swaps and whenever you're going in and purchasing the car, something that a lot of people don't think about when purchasing these cars, sometimes people want to do them themselves, sometimes people want to send them to shops and have them done, but I think a realistic budget and timeline are something huge. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what goes into that process?
Yeah, That is a big thing. Be realistic with your budget. Have all that in mind before you purchase that car. Think about, are you going to be doing this yourself? Are you going to be outsourcing the bodywork to a shop? Are you going to be outsourcing the mechanical part to a shop? What can you handle yourself? What do you need to outsource? Are you going to be outsourcing the whole thing? And then if you are, so what level are you taking? You know, so a lot of people, we do a lot of high-end builds here at the shop. People come in, they see the big builds, it may be what they want, but maybe that's not realistic for their budget.
Yeah.
So you got to think about what is realistic, what can you spend? You know, I mean, some people, there is no budget. Other people, they're trying to build a car for $10,000. That's things you have to decide that before you get started, because you may just find yourself, you buy a project with big plans, and then sometimes you'll put money into it, and you may put more money into it than really what it's worth if you don't know what you're doing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So you got to be careful on that. So you got to have that realistic budget in mind ahead of time. Think about that before you purchase the car.
Oh yeah. Well, and along with that too, if you are outsourcing to a shop or trying to do the work yourself, you want to think about a timeline as well.
Absolutely.
You don't want to purchase a project car that's going to take you 5 years to restore if you're trying to have this car ready for a car show in a year.
Right.
And I think a lot of people don't really, a big issue is I think a lot of the TV shows have thrown off those timelines.
Well, it only takes a week. Right?
Exactly. And if it's not done in a week, we're going to lose the shop.
We've overhauled. Yeah.
So what do you think is a realistic timeline? What do people need to take into consideration when they are looking at a realistic timeline?
Yeah, so I mean, once again, that goes back to the quality and the caliber of the build you're going. You know, I mean, once again, people come through the shop, they see the high-end builds that we do. They're cool, but you got to realize a lot of those 2, 3, 4, 5-year projects, people don't understand that. You know, we can have thousands of hours into all the metalwork and the body and paint and all those modifications and everything. It's years. It's not weeks. It's not months. It's years. So you want to have that in mind ahead of time. If you're wanting to have this at a car show next year, let's scale down that that thinking a little bit. And maybe you just want to put a drivetrain. So find a car that has that cool patina body that's, you know, it's in pretty decent shape. Hey, maybe you're just doing a drivetrain swap. Maybe you're doing a chassis swap. You know, I mean, there's a lot of cars. There's great companies like Roadster Shop. You know, you can order a chassis from them, put it under your car. You can order up an engine from GM. You know, we can put a GM performance motor in it. And maybe just do the interior. And now you got a cool car you can drive, and yeah, you can be out enjoying that car next year, but be realistic.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, and that's one thing I do suggest to, let's say you do have a smaller budget and you're wanting to get into the classic car thing, I would look for a car that's already running and driving, because you're going to have a lot more fun with a car that's running and driving, and you are going to be able to do those upgrades kind of as you go, especially if you're wanting to do it yourself or you're wanting to kind of do it a piece at a time.
Right. And the thing is don't get caught up in that good deal you've seen on Marketplace. You know, I have seen guys travel halfway across the country to buy a car because they got, you know, a Duster for $500, whatever it was. But then you get there and you can see through the car, you know, and they think, oh, but I got it for such a good price. Well, you know what? You should have spent a little more money. No, you should have spent quite a bit more money up front. Get a more solid car. You know, so you buy a roller for 10 grand, 15 grand, whatever it is. You buy that one that's been sitting in grandma's garage for 20 years. And yeah, you paid 20 grand for it. You save money.
Oh, big
you know,
time.
A lot of people, they don't realize how much that pay the money for that nice car, that solid car. It's worth every penny.
Oh, big time. That's something I think a lot of people don't take into consideration, is the amount of money you save by buying cars that are already solid. Because a lot of people do think, okay, I got this for less than $1,000. Man, I'm gonna make out like a bandit on this. You always lose money on
every
those.
time. Every time. You're gonna lose every time. If you can find a solid car, spend the money up front, get the solid car, you're gonna thank me in the end. Now, if you're wanting that super rare thing, you know what? You may not find it. You may have to start with a basket case because all you're going to find is a basket
Yeah,
case.
that is true.
So that's where it goes back to that realistic budget, though. You got to keep that in mind.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, guys, I think that's a lot of things to kind of think on whenever you are getting ready to build a project car. So these are things you want to keep in mind. And remember, if you've got anything you need done, reach out to Griffin Automotive Design.
Yeah, we're happy to help.
Thanks, guys.